Hey everyone! Today, I'm sharing a cool sci-fi action film from 2014 called Edge of Tomorrow. Spoiler alert, so be cautious and enjoy. A news anchor summarizes an extraterrestrial invasion of Earth at the beginning of the film. An allied human army equipped with new mechanical suits wins a significant battle in Verdun just when all looks lost. Rita Vrataski, a trooper in the Special Forces, is praised as a hero for eliminating hundreds of mimics or aliens. Major William Cage of the U.S. Army is one of the talking heads on the newsreels pushing Rita and the war effort. A helicopter journey to London wakes Cage, who assumes the Western Allied commander, General Brigham, wants him to aid him with his public persona. However, the general gives Cage the order to go with the first wave of Allied troops to land in France and to give media ground coverage. Cage attempts to use the media to blackmail the general despite having no prior experience in the field. The general appears to give in at first, then he gives the order to have Cage taken into custody. In the afternoon, Cage awakens at Heathrow Airport, which has been converted into a military installation atop a mound of duffel bags. Before another sergeant by the name of Farrell takes over, one sergeant forces his boots into his hands and refers to him as a maggot. It emerges out that Farrell received instructions from General Brigham to demote Cage from officer to private. The J Squad is a bunch of strange troops that Cage has been assigned to. Nance, Ford, Griff, Kimmel, and Skinner are the guys in the gang. As Cage gets to know them, Farrell discovers them gambling. After making the J Squad eat the cards they were playing with, Farrell gives them instructions on how to get Cage ready for their mission the following day. Cage is a nervous wreck on Invasion Day, which is the next day. Because they think he would pass away soon, the J Squad members put him in a suit and don't even teach him how to take his gun out of safety mode. They all pick on Cage when they are in the plane, which makes him even more anxious. But the back of their airship is in the air as they are ready to descend from the aircraft onto the French coast. The squad descends too soon as the ship explodes. Even though it was intended to be a surprise attack, the mimics are well prepared in ambush and kill the humans in order to recapture Europe. Not only does Sergeant Reed arrive on the shore, but he is slain in a matter of minutes. All of the J Squad's surviving members are eliminated quickly. Still in shock and on the edge of death, Cage reaches for a claymore mine as a massive blue mimic lunges towards him. Both Cage and the blue mimic perish in a single explosion. The alien's blood covers Cage's body. Farrell again takes Cage back to J Squad when he wakes up in a panic on top of the duffel bags in the following scene. The same sergeant is there, calling him a grub. After being slain while attempting to save Rita, he awakens a third time, but no one finds him credible. He dies and is deployed each time, only to resurrect on the duffel bags. He gets a little bit better at trying to save the J Squad members with every loop. And Rita, of course. He makes it through one loop long enough to save Rita from the spacecraft, which is about to explode and destroy the approaching mimics. When Cage awakens, Rita realizes what has occurred and asks him to find her before they both perish once more. When Cage awakens on the duffel bag once more, he decides to work with Sergeant Farrell and the J Squad to give himself some extra time to locate Rita. Cage eventually succeeds in getting out after multiple abortive efforts, and he discovers Rita in a training hangar encircled by training drones. Rita is icy at first, but when he gives her the rundown, she drags him off to a weapon building bay where Carter, one of her acquaintances, works. Dr. Carter is a mimic biology specialist. When they arrive, Rita informs him that the large blue alpha mimic's blood caused her to become caught in a time loop at Verdun as well. Carter was a researcher who once proposed the idea that an alpha mimic is stabbed by every mimic. Cage attempts to take it all in, but Rita tells him they have to make it through tomorrow's invasion before they can search for the Omega. After that, she kills Cage a few times when he gets hurt while training so that he wakes up on the duffel bags and has to start over. When Cage sustains severe injuries during one loop, Rita advises him to ensure his death rather than an unintentional resuscitation because the loop is interrupted as soon as the looper receives a transfusion of human blood. After he passes away, Cage suddenly has a mental image in which he discovers that the Omega is located inside a German dam. Rita and Carter think that after Cage contracted the blue blood virus, he became an alpha, which is why he was seeing visions. Cage and Rita concentrate on surviving the invasion as a result. They both get much better at fighting on the beach, yet in spite of everything, they both keep dying, and Cage keeps looping. In addition to becoming drawn to Rita, he experiences emotional distress from again witnessing her death. In the next loop, he gives up, makes the decision to leave the base, and heads to the bar in the hopes of breaking free from the loop. However, it is ineffective. He is eventually located by the mimics, who murder him to return him back to the beginning. Eventually, Cage and Rita arrive inland following multiple setbacks and fatalities. Rita discovers a helicopter inside a farmhouse and confronts Cage, realizing he's trying to convince her to stay there. Cage acknowledges that they have already made multiple loops to the farmhouse, but Rita has died each time. So he goes it alone in an attempt to spare her from another death. Cage cannot respond when Rita asks him why it matters what happens to her. But Rita knows all too well now that Cage is drawn to her. She seems to be solely focused on the mission, even though Cage is getting closer to her. Rita is taken aback and ends up killing them on purpose. In the loop that follows, Cage chooses to travel to the German dam by himself rather than going in search of Rita. But visiting the dam does not actually accomplish what he had hoped. Since the Omega is absent, he finds nothing. An Alpha ambushes him in an attempt to take away his ability to reset time, but Cage purposefully drowns himself. Carter, Rita, and Cage assembled the parts in the subsequent cycle. They act in this way in an attempt to decipher the meaning of the visions. Fortunately for them, after all this time, some pieces begin to fit together. Unfortunately, Carter claims that certain equipment is still missing from the device, thus it is still not completely functional. The upside is that they now have a clear understanding of what has to be done. Rita and Cage then divide their attention to get the equipment that General Brigham is holding. Following a series of setbacks, Cage and Vrataski penetrate the Ministry of Defense, where Cage persuades Brigham to hand over Carter's prototype gadget for finding the Omega. When they do retrieve the device, they stab Cage in the leg. But Cage can now see the Omega's actual position at last. The monster lives beneath Paris's Louvre Pyramid. Their getaway car crashes as they try to flee the Allied headquarters, and Rita is incapacitated by the airbag before she can kill Cage. In a hospital, Cage awakens in the subsequent scene. He acknowledges that he is no longer in the know. He can no longer loop time indefinitely after receiving a blood transfusion. There are just a few hours remaining in the invasion when Rita frees them, but there are no more loops. When Cage gets back to the base, he discovers the J Squad. Before the invasion starts, they enlist the J Squad to assist in destroying the Omega. When the mimics attack their airship after they get at the Louvre, half of the J Squad is slain in the subsequent gunfight. Cage, Rita, and the 3 surviving members of the J Squad make the decision to drop the airship into the museum by using the last of the engine power. In order to give Cage and Rita enough time to enter the museum, the other members of the J Squad make the ultimate sacrifice. When they arrive, Rita orders Cage to go ahead and set off a grenade belt on the Omega, which is submerged beneath the Louvre, while she diverts the attention of the patrolling Alpha Mimic. Rita gives Cage a kiss to express her gratitude for bringing her this far before enticing an Alpha away and placing himself between them and the submerged Omega. Following a short chase, Rita is taken prisoner by the Alpha and killed, while Cage submerges himself to reach the Omega. Cage is stabbed by the Alpha as he dives for him. Cage, however, maintains composure, removes every grenade pin, and inserts the belt into the Omega. All of the mimics perish along with the Omega when it bursts and dies. The blood of the Omega flows into Cage as he dies. Astonished, he awakens to find himself aboard the helicopter that was taking him to London the morning before the invasion. However, this time he awakens in a different historical period. He watches the news in this alternate reality, where the general declares that following an unexplained explosion in Paris, all of the mimics are dead and that the human troops will start advancing throughout Europe the next day. When Cage gets to the base, he sees that every member of the J team is still alive and healthy. When Cage finally locates Rita, she does not recognize him and gives him the same icy greeting as when they originally met, creating a loop. "Yes, what do you want?" she asks. Cage then gives her a smirk. "I appreciate you seeing. If you want to watch more videos like this, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next video.